G'day and welcome to part 6 of my mid-season player reviews and other 5 players to get through today. Just at the top, I'm in a bit of a shit mood, to be perfectly honest. I would have thought with the news that Harry is signed and we got that out of the way, that would have made me feel, a lot better than what I currently do towards the footy club at the moment. I don't know, just for some reason I feel a little bit angrier. And fucking God help me if Harry decided he wanted to leave. Fuck, imagine how I'd be feeling then. But I don't know, and if this is just me. It's purely me, but I thought I'd just tell you the way I'm feeling today with this news. It's the chest beating, I suppose, and look at us, we've signed Harry, and it's almost this, everything's okay, we've signed Harry, this messiah fucking syndrome that this club's been on for such a long time, the small victories, look who we've signed, fuck, you know what? I don't know, I'm sick of it. I'm actually fucking sick of it. Nothing is going to get me excited anymore. Nothing is going to get me excited anymore other than the performances on the ground. I couldn't give a fuck if we signed Dustin Martin tomorrow, and Jesus Christ. I really couldn't. I'm actually sick of all that shit associated with this football club. And then the fucking chest beating today, and the media department have got a job to do, and they do a wonderful job of getting fans on board. I've got no doubt about that. The fucking propaganda. But I don't know. It's almost as if we've fucking forgotten about what happened 10 days ago at the SCG, that pitiable performance against the Eagles, and where we sit on the ladder. And the fact that we've got an external review going on at the moment. And you know what? I'm fucking over it. Let's just start fucking winning games of football. All right? And unless Harry actually comes out, and he's been outstanding. From an individual point of view, he's been outstanding. Don't get me wrong. All right? And it's good to get his signature. But unless he actually comes out this weekend and kicks fucking half a dozen and spearheads us to a victory against the Giants, who are no fucking world beaters, then Jesus Christ, we can just see what's going to happen. We'd be back to fucking square one again. We just get tricked into thinking everything's okay, and it's not. It's not. All right, so I'm not excited about the Harry signature. It's great, whatever. Let me know how you're feeling in the comments below. Maybe I'm just a miserable fucking prick now, and this is going to be me now until I start to see fucking real improvement on the football field. Because that's the only thing that's going to get me excited now. None of this shit. And I understand signatures are important. It's a part of, it's a part of the game. But at the end of the day, you have 40-odd players on your list. Okay, let's get on with this mid-season player reviews, because that's what I'm here for. And we've got 5 players to get through. Tom Williamson, Jack Nunes, Ed Curnow, Oscar McDonald and Michael GIbbons. And if you're new to the channel, this is part 6. Go back and check parts 1 through to 5. I'm going in number order. So we finished off with David Cunningham. And we're going to skip number 29, which is Corey Durden. And we're going to skip, obviously, Charlie, number 30. Durden, first-year player from South Australia, small forward. He's had some injury concerns. I don't think he'll play this year. And obviously, we're, fingers crossed that we will see Charlie put on the jumper at some time in the back half of this season. But let's start with Tom Williamson, the number 31. I think it's been a obviously a really disappointing year for Williamson. And we know his story. We know he did miss 2 years of football, and we don't know what type of impact that has had on him from a development point of view. He really was, I suppose, rushed back into the team last year when Newman went down, and we wanted to see him. But he didn't get that chunk of VFL football into him. And he's a great specimen at 190 centimetres. He can run like the wind. He travels the ground really well. He's an athlete, but I don't know whether he's a good footballer. And I was a Tom Williamson fan because I saw that I suppose, that aggression he had in him when he played those games in his first year. I remember he really did work over Callum Mills in a game, and we saw that in his eye, and he gave us that. So maybe I was sucked in a little bit about that aggression and that, you know, that bit of CUNT in him. But I haven't seen that since, to be perfectly honest. I don't know if that was just a bit of a show from him. I haven't seen that aggression from him since. So let's put that on the table now, that so-called toughness. So I don't know where that has disappeared. And I've also seen a drop in weight as well. He's really thinned down. And I don't know whether that was something they wanted to you know, work on. I don't know, but he looks skinnier and he doesn't look as strong from a physical point of view. And I reckon his season, when he did play this year, was horrible. You know, it was horrible. Averaging round 1 against Richmond and then just really poor against Collingwood in round 2. Coming off a pretty ordinary sort of pre-season games as well. He didn't really set the world on fire. Then got dropped to the VFL, played 1 game in the VFL and then was straight back in. And then was terrible again against Port, playing as a defender. And he hasn't been seen since. And we're now approaching round 14. And I don't know if he's been named as an emergency many times in that period. I think his VFL form's been solid without being anything special. They're obviously working on areas of his game. His decision-making's poor. He panics under pressure. He's terribly one-sided. He gets himself into all sorts of trouble, you know, because he is one-sided. And I mentioned the fact, is he tough? Is he really that tough? I don't know. There's no doubt that when he came in last year, he played a really good role as in a lockdown defender. So he did some really good roles on small forwards. But you need more than that. You need an offensive part of your game. And it almost, for me, as soon as he started to think, or was told, okay, let's start to see an attacking side of your game, that's when we started to see the drop-off in confidence, and we started to see, like, can he actually fucking play? And that, for me, is a bit of a concern. He's contracted to the end of 2022, so he's got time. He's going to have time. The problem now is the whole situation with the VFL and what that looks like at the moment. So are they getting any quality football at the moment? These players at VFL level. He worries me a little bit because I wanted some genuine pressure on the likes of Nick Newman. Nick Newman comes in now and it's almost like he's going to get a free ride till the end of the year, when you really want Tom Williamson. You want him at 22 years of age putting some pressure on these blokes. And there was all this talk of putting Tom Williamson up onto a wing. I mean, they tried him in that position in the last game of last year against Brisbane, and he did okay. He looked okay, but he never even got a sniff of that at all. So I don't know. I don't know where he fits now. He's going to have some time to develop at the lower level, get some confidence back into him, work on those deficiencies, and maybe we will see a better player when he comes back. I just thought he came back too quickly and he didn't have enough confidence to perform at the higher level. And it's a concern. It's a little bit of a concern because he's missed a lot of football, and he was taken with a late pick, and there was a reason why he was taken with a late pick. It was very speculative because he is a fine athlete. He's got great physical attributes. He can run, as I said, but can he actually play? The most important thing is, can he play? So disappointing year so far for Tom Williamson, the number 31. Jack Nunes. For me, unfortunately, just right now, he looks like, at 28 years of age and out of contract. And we know how we got him. He was a listed free agent, and he's played some reasonable football for us in that time. But he looks right now to be a classic list clogger. And it has that written all over him. I mean, he was discarded by St Kilda. They didn't want him. They're no world beaters, and we suddenly have him part of our best 22. Well, we did. And the fact that most, and now I didn't, But the fact that most had him in their best 22 at the start of the season was always a concern for me. And we really need others younger playing similar type positions to be sprinting past him in this part of our journey. But they're not. They're jogging up to him but not going past him. You know, so where the fuck is Lockie O'Brien? You know, there's all those stories about, you know, Nunes v Lockie O'Brien during pre-season and Nunes bullied him, blah, blah, blah. But, you know, why isn't Lockie O'Brien just fucking sprinting past Jack Nunes? You know, when he started the season okay on a wing, I don't think he had 27 disposals in round one, dropped to 16, but then had 23 and 22. But it's progressively got worse until he was dropped after the Bulldogs game, because he wasn't giving us a lot. I mean, he had that game in defence against Brisbane, which came out of the box, out of the blue. And then, you know, he was a sub against the West Coast Eagles, came on when Harry went off and didn't give us a lot. I don't know. He's been playing on a wing. Is he good enough to be playing that position? I don't think so. I don't think he makes enough of an impact. I think his point of difference last year was the fact that he could kick goals. And he kicked 13 goals last year, and I think he's kicked one this year. I always go back to Jack Dyer. You need role players. You definitely need role players, but how many of them do you need in this class, in this bracket of player? He's not a great kick. I mean, he's not a bad long kick, but he's not a great kick. What does he actually do really well? He has a dip. Seems to be really popular off the field. But as Jack Dyer used to always say, he's just a good, ordinary footballer. So that's Jack Nunes. Will be a fascinating watch in the back half of this season. A fascinating watch to see what happens with Jack Nunes in regards to a contract for next year. We skip second-year players. Who we skip? We skip Sam Ramsey. I mean, he was dynamite form in the VFL at the start of the season, but they ignored, they wouldn't give him an opportunity, so he sort of just tapered off fractionally at that level, number 33, and we skipped Sam Philp. Disappointing year for young Sam Philp, who made his debut last year, but just really hasn't been able to get on the park this year, and then put him out the pasture for the rest of the year with a hit complaint. But we go to Ed Curnow at pick 35, an unrestricted free agent, and I'm not saying Ed's going anywhere, and I'm not even saying that other clubs will be into it. But at 32 years of age in November, it's getting to the point now where what do we see of Ed moving forward? You know, like, you know, is it a 1 year? It's going to be 1 year contracts from now on if that's the case. And look, he's had another just a consistent season. I mean, it's consistent. But one of the most interesting things for me with Ed will be, how are we going to use him for the last 10 games, considering where we're at? I mean, bottom four, probably no chance of playing finals football now. You know, where are we going to play him for the rest of the year, considering he played the last game as a defender? The first time, I reckon, in his career he's played as a defender on Jamie Cripps across half back. And he's not even a good user. I mean, you want good users in that position. So he's playing as a lockdown defender, but why? He's played 66 games straight now, Ed. That's how durable he's been. We know he's durable. And I don't think we even use him as a tagger anymore, like a genuine hard tagger. I think he's just, you know, maybe runs with someone, but is encouraged to get his own ball. And we know he's not overly damaging. I think his ball use inside forward 50 has been okay this year, but he doesn't hurt. He doesn't hurt the opposition when he's getting his mid-20s. He's just not hurting he never does. And I can't remember ever saying Ed completely shut out a Pendlebury or a Buck or a Neil, you know, or Oliver. I can't remember it. We always were saying before the game, this is who Ed needs to go to, but I just couldn't remember him locking down on the opposition's best or most damaging midfielder. And I honestly don't think we have enough midfield depth for him to actually be used in that manner, like a Marco O'Connor at Geelong, who's become probably the best in the competition at that role. Because Geelong have got so much midfield depth, they can afford to use O'Connor in that role, and he does it so well. And as I said, he wins enough of the ball, but he's not damaging. And, you know, what other clubs in the competition would go... I mean, what other clubs in the competition would go into a season with expectations of playing finals football with Ed Curnow as one of your prime midfielders? You know, Cripps, Walsh, Ed Curnow. I mean, it just doesn't sound good. I don't know. And this is not a criticism of Ed. It's not. Because overall, he's been okay. He's still probably one of our best tacklers. He still wins the ball. But it's more... I don't know, it's more of an indication of where we're at and our refusal really to address a problem, you know, the midfield problem. And it's a huge weakness. And if we're going in the last 10 games of the year as Ed is one of our prime midfielders, then fucking hell. I don't know. And you know what? Ed was a significant factor in T getting his job in the first place 2 years ago. And he's another one that you know, obviously T has a lot of faith in and a lot of loyalty associated with Curnow. And I sort of understand that. I don't know. The fact that with no Cunningham now means Ed continues to roll on with the same old. And his brother Charlie, who we all want to see back, is going to be back shortly. So that's Ed Curnow. Half a tick for me for Eddie for season 2021. And he'll probably finish bloody high up in the best and fairest. That's just about where we're at. We're skipping Josh Honey. We shouldn't be skipping Josh Honey because he actually added to his one game from last year with a game as a sub, but he never got onto the ground. So I'm not even going to give him a mid-season review. So we skip him. We skip our new player we picked up in the mid-season draft in Jordan Boyd, who wears the number 37, which was made famous by the great Wayne Harm. So it's a great number for young Jordan Boyd. We don't have a player on our list who wears the number 38. And they obviously put it out into retirement, the number 38, for a year because of Finbar O'Dwyer and the impact he had at our football club for 2 years. So number 30, the last player actually to play a senior game in the number 38 was Kyron Byrne, the Irishman. So that's become a mystery, the old number 38. So we go to Oscar McDonald. I find it hard when supporters call him OMAC as if he's like been at the club for, I don't know, fucking 10 years and he's played 200 games and OMAC. Oh, we got OMAC. Oh, we got OMAC. We got OMAC coming in. Anyway, Oscar McDonald. Hats off to him. Yeah, I thought he played it all right when he came on as a sub in that game against Richmond. And ironically, he came on for Jack Silvani, and he looked more damaging than Jack Silvani. He had 10 disposals and 2 goals, and actually he helped turn the game a little bit, old OMAC. He's only 25, no contract for next year. I can't see him being at the club. I know he's good height, 196, and he's not a bad athlete. And he's had those back concerns. So he's had the 3 games. He played the 1, and the other 2 were just as a sub, no opportunity. I actually thought he may have been an option to play on his brother, Tom, because we had no matchup for him. I mean, he fucking gave Jacob Wettering the run around a bit. I don't know. I saw enough of him at Melbourne. He panics under pressure. He doesn't kick the ball well. I just don't think he's sustainable, and I'd be very surprised to see if he's on our list next year. He's back at training apparently, and he's doing the ball work, and we'll probably, knowing us, we'll see him again this year. So that's OMAC, Oscar McDonald. And our final player for my mid-season preview for part 6 is Michael GIbbons. Gibbo, or Bob, as I used to call him last year, because he used just to bob up everywhere without an opponent. I don't know. Definitely a favourite of David Teagues, there's no doubt about that. He's played the 47 games now, and as a rookie, I think he's been giving us reasonable service. I mean, really, And this year's been definitely a mixed bag. We often remember the last month or so, which has been pretty ordinary from Michael GIbbons. But we forget the game early in the year against Collingwood where he kicked 3 goals, 16 disposals, was one of our best. We forget the game where he had 19 and kicked 2 against Gold Coast in difficult conditions. It was one of their sort of pretty good on that game as well. The thing is with Gibbo, he's 26, not 20. And I know he hasn't been in the system long, but he played a lot of footy at VFL level. You know, 2-time listed medal winner. He's not young. So what is the ceiling? He is a pure role player. And I know he can be clever. And he's a smartish footballer. And it's a shit fucking position to play. I reckon it's probably the worst position to play, that high half forward role. And unless you're hitting the scoreboard, you know, a lot of the stuff you do is not seen by supporters. It becomes very selfless. But what is he good at? Is he damaging by foot? Is he powerful? Is he aggressive? Is he fierce? I don't know. I was always hoping that he'd go on to be maybe a Kane Lambert type, and really take that next step as a footballer. And he's out of contract, and then you got to make decisions. There's a 1-year contract. I don't think you'd be going with 2 for Michael GIbbons. Will he get another year? Will he see any more football this year? I think he will. What is his trump card? If you are a role player, what else can you give other than just maybe an honest effort? I don't know. And then once again, how many of these blokes can you have? How many of these blokes can you have? It's a barely a tick for Gibbo for this year. It's barely a tick. And a lot of the times it's been pretty ordinary. He did his hammy, which gave Murph an opportunity to come back in, and they seem to be fighting for that same position. But I'd like to see them develop and give someone else an opportunity in that position, like a Josh Honey, someone with a little bit more dynamic. Anyway, that is part 6, done and dusted of my mid-season player reviews. What do you think? What do you think of those 5 players? Give me your take. I mean, they're not the most exciting players that I've done so far. So Willow, Nunes, Curnow, McDonald and Michael GIbbons. How do you say them for the rest of this season and moving forward into the next year? Only one of them is contracted for next year, and that's Tom Williamson. Where do you see the other 4? Where do you see them fitting in? Will they be at the club in 2022? I will see you with the final, part 7. Part 7, and there's some beauties in part 7 of my mid-season player reviews. Catch you then.